Black Power. We live again with the General. Uh, we talking today about Donald Trump and his fantasy relationship with Kim Jong Un, a fantasy relationship. Uh, and this is what I'm talking about: a failed American empire, a failed American empire. Okay, when you thinking that your arch enemy is your friend, Kim Jong Un is in the pocket of what's his name, Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin. That's the triad right there. That's the triad. Them three gonna back one another for real. Ain't nothing gonna go down where the other two not gonna support against the United States or Europe. So for him to believe in he's a he I don't know what he got going on. Now I know war is about based on deception, but who the hell are you deceiving? Yourself? You still got to be real. You're not even being real. You buddying with the air. You buddy with the Arab, Saudi Arabia, Turkey. Oman, them Arabs don't give a goddamn about Donald Trump. They don't. They don't give a damn about no Europeans. They want power. They don't give a goddamn. They gonna play the game. They gonna play the game just like the Neanderthal. They all Neanderthal, but you know the you know the European Neanderthal. You got the Arab Neanderthal too. You see, and so they all Neanderthal. They're just from different caves. You got one cave here, one cave there, and but he's a fool because the Arabs and the Iranians are Muslims. They believe in Islam and they will die for Islam. And they have been killing for Islam for 1,000 years, and they not about to and the ones that get so careless to where it look like they sidestepping Sharia law. That's what Iran is cracking their head for, because they believe that they done stepped outside of the Sunnah. They done stepped outside of the objective and directive of Islam. They over there drinking wine and liquor and pork and all of that shit. They eating pork. They goddamn prostituting all in these supposedly Muslim nations and shit. They doing everything a fucking Western nation doing. So they ain't nothing but perpetrators and shit, and what they just like these European Christian nigga Christians. They falling back to. That's what that power would do for you. That's exactly what that power would do for. So while they be sitting up in them high towers when peoples is out there doing their prayers and shit at the Kaaba, they be sitting up in the high rises, drinking, eating pork sandwiches and shit, and smoking and doing every goddamn thing else. That's what they do. So they ain't nothing but a bunch of goddamn hypocrites in what they believe, but they radical about they radical about that because that's their power. That's their power. With all holy sites that they have that bring millions every year, money coming in every year from over 1 billion Muslims, and so that's power, that's money, that's the economy, and so they keep it going. And that's what they about though. That's they mission, is to have global power, you know, with with their objective to rule through Islam. They ain't got no ideologies where they gonna share no power with no damn infidels. So that's a bunch of bullshit. So I don't know why, he Donald Trump got this illusion that everybody is. They don't give a fuck about Donald Trump or the United States when it comes to that. They gonna play the game. They gonna play the game. You know what I'm saying? Till they can pull in front of your ass. They're just like a race car, where they ride that, yeah, yeah, they ride your ass and shit. It's a certain move where they ride your ass for a minute and it's like a slingshot effect where that motherfucker can come around in front of you, and a lot of times they wait to do it, you know what I'm saying? Some do it beforehand. But the best time to do it is at the end where you got that motherfucker. And you mash down on the gas and you win the race. And so that's all they doing. They gonna try that slingshot effect, be your friend and all of that. And as soon as they can pull in front of the United States, that's exactly what the fuck they gonna do. And so Kim Jong Un is over there. They have Russia and China then developed this man's arsenal. You know what I'm saying? Man, listen, this motherfucker probably could hit the United States right now with a missile. He could probably hit the United States. That's how advanced he is. And they want it that way because North Korea is right below China. China don't want North Korea to fall. They don't want what is it, a failed state. They don't want to take it over because the Koreans is their brothers. So they don't give a fuck if they don't want it to fall, and they don't want South Korea or if or the United States to assume power in North Korea. So they're gonna give him enough technology where he is strong enough that if they try to come in there, if once you get the nuclear bomb, it's a wrap. It's a fucking wrap. And so if he got the technology where he could hit United States, hit over in Europe, it's a wrap. Ain't no going up in there. So they didn't gave him that power. So now you gonna punk out. You don't want no damn you don't want to have war games over there. Well shit, your power is shrinking. Your power is fucking shrinking. You gotta let motherfuckers know, hey, you bring your ass down here, it's on and popping. Now I don't encourage shit because I know what it is. Even when the Egyptians, and the Ethiopians, they knew that the Hyksos, the Hyksos had come in their land, and they knew where the fuck they came from, and they had an imperialistic age too. But Canaan was their brother. That wasn't no, it wasn't like they talking about imperialistic age. Canaan was their brother. They didn't take it over because they were trying to impose their will on Canaan. They knew Canaan wasn't strong enough to beat the Hyksos. So in order to keep that area under Ethiopian, Cushite, Egyptian rule, they took it over. And so sometimes you have to cut into certain areas. Or if you understand the agenda of the other, adversary, he gonna assume control. So either you gonna assume control, he gonna assume control. And so Donald Trump is weak. He's weak. He's weak. I can say that. He has he doesn't have an administration that's worth two dead flies. His Secretary of Defense is garbage. I can tell you that. He's garbage. Ain't no way you supposed to have a major as the Secretary of Defense. That's ridiculous. He should at least be a general. He should at least be a general. You see what I'm saying? Of good rank and file. Somebody that has the respect of the whole military. As being a no nonsense guy, that a military man looks out for the soldiers first. This motherfucker is a frat boy. Ain't no general gonna respect. He's a National Guard major. Oh hell no. Oh hell no. I didn't even do no more. I didn't even do that. I was wondering, He's a National Guard major. Man, listen here. Now, I respect. Now, I understand how a major is a high rank. But that fucked me up when you said National Guard. I don't disrespect majors. My grandfather was a major in the Air Force. And that's 2 ranks up under a general. But when you talking about the Secretary of Defense, you need to be a general. And you need to lead. I think you should have at least, you should be damn near a third or 4-star general at the minimum. For real. So a motherfucker, cause listen, he's a fucking National Guard major. Once he come out of the Secretary of Defense and he go on any base, anywhere in the fucking United States or any base in the world, he gotta salute a colonel. I think the colonel is below the general. He had to salute. I don't give a fuck. You got to salute. I don't see how they do. That's a simple motherfucking, that was a simple-minded move, man. I just don't understand it. You know what I'm saying? And you gonna think you gonna tell me what to do? And you done took a fucking National Guard major and made him the highest ranking man in the military? That's fucked up. That was the dumbest move that was dumb. That was really fucking dumb. That's why they rather resign. And so you got all your top fucking generals and admirals resigning. You know what I'm saying? You running them out for this? Oh, hell no. That's why he in the predicament he in. I'm done, y'all. I'm done. That's why he running from Kim Jong Un, because he ain't got nobody on his team. He should fire head chef and bring in a qualified general that the people gonna respect. Got some battlefield experience. You know what I'm saying? In commanding and on the battlefield. And get some of them top generals and admirals back on the job, unless they support them sweet cakes. Now, if they support the sweet cakes, I agree. You could get ghosts. But other than that, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Finn is good. I'm hip to him. He could do the job. Yeah, he way better than, yeah, he could do the job. Of course. He could do the job. Most definitely. But anyway, family, I'll be black in a minute. Get down there, click that link, get over to Patreon, and boom, get that work. We got 2 new uploads up there, and I'll see you in a minute. Black Power.